Yo, what's going on, guys? Reversal here, and today I'm be doing a pure Chimera deck profile for the current format. This is a deck I've had since Duelist Nexus came out, and it recently became a lot better with the addition of Nightmare Apprentice and Diabells from the new set. And the Nightmare Apprentice gives this deck a lot more consistency and ability to play through hand traps. And since you're not playing the branded fusion anymore, and the Baphomet isn't like something you need to do early on in your combos, and sometimes not at all, so you're not getting fusion locked all the time, which opens up a lot of cool options in the extra deck. So I think the deck just got a lot more fun to play. It's less linear now than it was before, and with the illusion typing, this deck can get more support at any given time since that's a new type in the past year. So anytime a new illusion card comes out, this deck can potentially get even better. So it's definitely a deck that I think is a good investment for the future, since it can always get better with any new support. But yeah, before I get into the deck, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, definitely do that now so you don't miss out on any future videos. Drop a like, comment, all that good stuff. And check out finalsaga.de. And if you decide to buy anything from them, use my code reversal10 for 10% off. This mat that I'm using is from them, and it's from their new anime Orca set, which comes with a lot of cool stuff, such as these gold-plated God card field centers. And it comes with 3 different decks, one being Yugi, Kaiba, and Merrick. So these are some of the cards that are in there. It comes with holos, non-holos. It's a full like anime deck, so you could do like anime style duels with your friends. And the deck boxes, which have the character's face etched in on the front. So they got a lot of cool stuff over there. Definitely check them out. If you use my code, it helps me directly. So win-win for everybody. Yeah, with that being said, get right into the deck profile. So this list is going to be 41 cards, I believe, at the moment. Start off with the 3 Nightmare Apprentice, 3 Sword Knight, 3 Cornfield, 3 Gazelle, 2 Baphomet, then the 1 Master Tau, and the 1 Diabells. So these are all like pretty standard, like old ratios for the deck. The new cards are just the Apprentice and the Diabells. This card, if you don't know what it does, it pretty much just makes it so your opponent has to set their spell and trap cards before they use them. So this card in itself shuts off all quick plays, which is really nice. And then when a spell or trap is set, you can pop a card on your side of the field and your opponent's side of the field with this. So if they set like a field spell, you know it's a field spell, you could pop that. And then with the back row stuff, it's kind of, there's some mind games with it, but the main thing that it's nice that it does is shut off all the quick plays, which is really important. And then the Master Tau, it's a 1-of that I think is pretty standard at this point, but this card just has a lot of utility to bring back an illusion. It could bring back the Apprentice, it could bring back the Diabells, it can bring back Sword Knight. So it's definitely a card that comes up a lot, and it's very helpful to have. But yeah, these are all like the normal ratios, not too much to talk about with these. Yeah, the Apprentice has just been really nice to have for the deck. Then we have the 3 Chimera Fusion. I feel like you should be playing 3 of this card for sure. And then the Patchwork Engine, which is 3 Patchwork, 2 Polys, and 2 Edgem Chain. So this is like your extra consistency package. Patchwork is pretty crazy in this deck, since you just get to add a poly and an Edgem Chain, and this is a fiend, so it works with your Chimera Fusion to make like various different things. So these are really nice to have. I think you just play 3 Patchwork because it's the one you want to see. The Edgem Chain's good to have, especially if you open it like with Apprentice, so you can like pitch the chain, summon Apprentice, and then you get both these effects. But if you're not opening this with like Apprentice or something, it's not that good, so I think it's better to just play this at 2. But you could play 3 if you want, but I think it's fine at 2. But yeah, this package is really good. Definitely would play it in the deck. Now for the non-engine, playing 15. Playing 3 Ash, 3 Veiler, 2 Ghost Mourner, 2 Nib, 3 Imperm, 1 Tactics, and 1 Called By. So Ash, Veiler, and Imperm are the best hand traps right now, in my opinion. And I think these are the next 2 best. As opposed to I was playing just 3 Mourner before, but I decided to cut 1 and just add the 2 Nibs and go up to 41. Just because the Nib can be really good, especially against Snake Eyes, more than the other decks. Whether you pair it with something, or sometimes a lot of their new combos are more greedy, so they play worse into Nib. So I think this card is okay. Sometimes it's not good in other matchups, but I think it's warranted to play, while Snake Eyes is still like by far the best deck. Like, we see it just dominating everything still. So I feel like this is fine. You could definitely adjust these based on your expected meta, but I think hand traps are just good to play in this deck. If you go into Guardian Chimera, you're drawing like 1 or 2 cards. You want to be drawing into hand traps, so that's always good. And then the Nib giving you a body can also be helpful, making a Guardian Chimera on your turn as well. So these are just good. Then the 1 talents, just play 1, just as a nice one-of. With this deck, if you do get hand trapped and have talents, and you get to rip a card from their hand, like if you have the ability to keep playing, you're just like taking a card from their hand. They already used the hand trap, and then you're hand ripping them at the end phase with the Chimera, Phantom Beast. So you're just taking a lot of cards away from them, and then they can't really play after that, since you have like more disruptions than they have cards. So I think it's good to have as a one-of. Like, this was my 40th card before I decided to cut a Mortar and bump it to 2 Nib to go with that. So I think it's fine. You can even side more copies if you want, but I like it at 1. And then just 1 Call By to help against hand traps and stuff. It's pretty normal to have that. So yeah, it's 41. You could play 40 if you want and cut the talents or whatever, but I think 41's fine. So for the extra deck, got 2 Chimera King of the Phantom Beast. You could definitely play 1 of these. I don't think you necessarily need 2 of this one at all. You could just play like something else instead. I think if I were to cut 1 of these, I'd add like Nightmare Phoenix or something like that. But I don't think this last slot is like super important if you're not playing Super Poly, which I'm not. We got 2 Baphomet. This one I think is a lot more important to have 2 of, since you make this one a lot more in like grind games, since it's easier to make. Then we got the 1 Illusion Beast. This is nice to help get easy OTKs. Then 2 Guardian Chimera. I feel like this card should be played at 2. It comes up to make on your opponent's turn. It can come up when it gets back to your turn to help clean things up. So I feel like you should be playing 2 of this if you have the space for it. Like, if you're not playing Super Poly, it gets a lot easier to play multiples of some of these. So got the 1 Magnum. It's just a nice like utility fusion to make sometimes. The Dragostapelia, same thing. Can make this sometimes. Doesn't come up all the time, but when it does, it's nice to have. 1 Chaos Angel. This card's really nice in this deck, since you can make it a lot of the time because of the Nightmare Apprentice being a 6, and like your other fusions are also 6s, but they're not light or dark, so mainly comes up with the Nightmare Apprentice. And you can make this with the Sword Knight, for example. So if you make it with the Sword Knight, it's light and dark, so you get all the effects. So it's really hard to deal with, and then you do get the banish on summon as well. So the card definitely comes up a decent amount of the time, and it can just end up winning you games on its own. Another funny thing is like Guardian Chimera is a level 9 and a dark, and Veiler is a level 1 light, so sometimes you just like clear their board with this, and then they can't like keep playing, then you just normal summon a Veiler and make a Chaos Angel, and then that could also win you a game. Yeah, I think Chaos Angel is really nice to have. Then the SP, like I said, you don't get fusion locked like all the time in this version, as opposed to like the old one with the branded fusion. So this definitely comes up a decent amount of the time as well. It's been really nice to have. The Muckraker, this can bring back Chaos Angel, it can bring back other fiends. So it's just nice utility to have. It doesn't come up all the time, but it's nice to have. And then for some Mixies, we have Beatrice, rank 6, since the Nightmare Apprentice is level 6, and these fusions are also level 6. So sometimes you can make Beatrice and either dump like Chimera fusion, so you can add that back, or dump Master Tau or whatever you need. It can come up in certain combos, especially after getting disrupted, so it's nice to have. Then we got the one Lars. This is my boy from the Dinos. It's just another generic rank 6 you can make and get a negate. Unlike in Dinos, it's only one negate, since you're not using dinosaurs, obviously, but I think it's still a nice card to have. And then last card is Typhon. This card I think is nice just to have for breaking boards. Can help in a lot of different scenarios just to help you survive with its effect. And it's also a fiend, which can come up too. So like, say you use this to kind of clear something, or if it's your only play and then like you set a Chimera fusion, you can use this with the Chimera fusion, like since it's a fiend. So that's pretty cool to have. I think it's nice in this deck just as a extra utility. But yeah, these are like the normal stuff for this deck now. For the side deck, as usual, I'll show more than 15 cards to give you options. So the third nib you can side. I think that one's more important. Then you could also side the third mourner if you end up with an extra spot, but I think doing that is less important than having the third nib. Then the rest of these hand traps are kind of like the same thing right here. You can side a couple Bestials, Crows, or Bells. I'm just showing 2. You could play 3 of any of these if you want. This all kind of depends on your meta, obviously, with the side deck as usual, but these are all kind of doing the same thing for the most part. They all just have different utility versus different decks. I think versus like the Puppet Lock, the Bestials are the best, but these cards are also good against branded. I think versus a deck like Labyrinth, the Bells are going to be the best. The main thing with Bell, I think, right now, as opposed to with these ones, is that Bell can hit Ostinato when the Melodious deck, so I think that's like a relevant interaction. But I think you want to be playing at least one of these cards, whether it's at 2 or 3. You definitely want to be including them, but I'll let you decide which one you want to play. But they're all good in different ways. I think Bell has overall the most utility at the moment, though. And then a couple other hand traps you could play is Ghost Ogre. I think this card's decent right now. You could even potentially main these instead of like the nibs if you are finding the nibs not to be good at your locals, since there's not as much Snake Eyes or something. So this is just one that I felt was worth mentioning as well. And then Droll. I don't really like Droll in this deck, since it's okay going second sometimes, but I don't think it hits enough decks right now. And going first, this card's not good in this deck since it shuts off your Guardian Chimera. So I think if you want to play one of these, in addition to crossouts, I think it's fine, but otherwise I don't think I'd play it at all. So now for back row hate and other board breakers. Duster, it's always good to have Duster. And then I would either play Lightning Storms with it or Cosmics. I don't think you really have space for all of this, so just kind of go for what you feel like is going to help you more. If you want like the quick plays to be able to like respond to certain floodgates and stuff, I think the Cosmics are nice. But if you just want the mass clears to help like break through boards as much as possible, the Storms are good as well. So these can hit monsters and like back row, so this can deal with your floodgates, and it can hit like random monster boards as well. So I think either or, these are fine, but I wouldn't play all of them. I'll kind of like lay out 15 at the end, but I'm just kind of give you a lot of options to start with. Then if I was to side a board breaker in this deck, it would be Droplet. You have some good discard cards in this, like the Edge Imps, and some of the other stuff is like fine to discard. So I think if I was going to play a board breaker in the side, it would definitely be Droplets. Then like you could side more talents if you want as well. This is like kind of a board breaker, but it's also like good going first, so I think these are pretty good. And then, like I mentioned with the droll, if you want to play crossouts, you could side these. I don't really feel the need to side like dedicated going first, like floodgates and stuff in this deck, since you do have the option to dump stuff like the barrier statue, which is like the main one you're going to be using in the side, and then you have like some other options like End of Anubis and King Tiger Wangu, depending on like what decks you're trying to prepare for, but the barrier statue covers most of them. So I feel like if you want to play like going first cards, I'd probably just do like the statue for sure, and then if you want to like ensure your combo resolves, you could play like the crossouts and maybe an additional talent, so these can be like your defensive cards. So if you wanted to cut this down to 15, if I were to include the crossouts at least, I would probably go for something like this, like 3 crossouts, the barrier statue, and then the third nib. You could play like the 1 droll for crossout, and then like the crows or bells, whatever one of these, or the bestials. But if you're gonna play crossout, I would probably play the ones that you're more likely to see, which is probably like bell or bestials. And then you could play like these, and that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you still have 4 more slots at that point, so you can either play like just more of the hand traps and talents, or the droplets and talents. So you have like a lot of different options you could go with, but those are like the main cards I would say to use in your side with this. But yeah, it's gonna be it for the profile. It's a fun deck to play. Definitely give it a try if you have the cards. And like I said, I think it's a pretty decent investment since the deck's like relatively cheap for the most part. I think the only real card that costs like a lot is the Nightmare Apprentice. That's like mandatory. I think this card's like 30 bucks or something. But the other stuff like Guardian Chimera got reprinted. The King you only need 1 of, so it's not that bad. Chaos Angels, like it comes up sometimes, but it's not like something that you absolutely need, but that'll get a reprint in a few months as well. So then SP, same thing, obviously, like that card's expensive, but it's not like super mandatory. But a lot of those cards are going to be reprinted in a few months, so it's, if you're going to pick up the cards like Nightmare Apprentice, this isn't going to be in the tin, so this is like a safe, you can pick up the rest of it and then get like the Chaos Angels and Typhons, SPs and stuff when the tins come out. But yeah, that's it for the deck. Have a good one. Peace.